Hey guys, it's Bruce. Welcome to Convocourses, where we talk about cybersecurity, risk management framework, governance, risk, and compliance. Once I do this once a week, and today I'm not going to get into politics. All right, this is not this is not about politics, and regretfully, I've the name is going to probably bring a whole bunch of trolls and stuff, and but I feel like I need to talk about it. And I just want to say that my fate is in my own hands. It's not in any administration's hands. It's not in Obama's hands. It's not in Trump's hands. It's not in Biden's hands, Kamala's hands. It's in my hands. My fate, the fate of my career, is in my own hands in the actions that I take. I would argue that the same thing applies to you. So, regardless of who's in office, regardless of who's in the administration, you're the master of your own fate, right? I just noticed like people are getting really emotional about it, about this whole thing. Really emotional thinking that the president's going to be a savior, and real emotional thinking that it's the end of the world. And neither one of those things are true. Your fate is in your own hands. Your destiny is in your own hands. And I'll just give you an example. I started doing IT in the year 2000, 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now, right? That's 5 presidents. Now we're about to have 6 presidents. And in that time, like 2000, that was President Clinton. I was in the military at that time. And those are formative years for me. That's when I cross-trained from being physical security into cybersecurity and IT. And in there, I did networking, I did help desk, I did certification and accreditation. I did a whole bunch of formative things that if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And that was during the Clinton administration. And then I got out of the military in around 2003, and that was Bush administration. I worked for Northrop Grumman. I worked for SAIC, and then I went back to Northrop Grumman Aerospace, right, and doing all IT stuff. And I remember I was about to move jobs from Northrop Grumman to some other job, and at the time, Obama had just won the election. He just won, and I remember my boss took me in his office and he says, "Hey, I understand you're about to leave." And he says, you might not want to do that because this new guy who's coming in office, Obama, is about to cut the military down by like 15%. He's about to take some of the budget away. So you get out there, it's going to be really hard for you to find a job. And he was just looking out for me, right? I'm a really good worker. I take care of business. So he was looking out for me. But in his mind, it was the end of the world because this dude, Obama, is about to come into office. And I did great under Obama. Like I went on to work for a small company. I was teaching for like a year. And then I went on to I worked for the Army as a contractor. And I did really well. That was the first time I made 6 figures. And then, fast forward into 2017 when Trump first got in office, and I worked for aerospace again. I went back, start working for NASA. My my point is, I at any no point did my career go down. It just kept getting better. It's because this career path is evergreen. And if I go all the way back, rewind to when I first got out of the military, it was the same thing. When I got out of the military, I was a super hard worker. I'm always getting stuff done. And so when I was about to get out of the military, my boss took me in his office, a captain. He said, "Look, man, you might not, sergeant, you might not want to get out right now because, this or that and the third is happening with the economy outside." And I was just fine. I was fine getting out of the military. I was fine during the Bush administration, during the Obama administration, during the Trump administration, and even now, it hasn't stopped. I haven't. That was during COVID. That was during 9/11. That was during several wars. That was during a divorce in my own life. um, I've been doing all right. My point is, uh, this is an evergreen career path. Cybersecurity and governance, risk and compliance, IT. It's not going to be forever. Nothing lasts forever, right? So at some point, the gravy train is probably going to dry up or change or something. But I'm telling you, this career path has been golden, and I just don't think I'm gonna focus on some of the changes that I think might happen with administration. But what you'll see as a pattern, whereas governance, risk, and compliance, cybersecurity is really dictated by the market, not by the government, not by administrations, not by feelings. It's moved by what happens rather than what people want to happen. So, and I'm going to show you guys that in a second here. But I just want to emphasize your life is determined by you. You are the master of your own destiny. The things that you do today affect what's going to happen in the future, not some administration. So it doesn't matter who's in office. Of course, there's some things it does affect. I'm not going to sit here and say it has no impact at all. It does. But what I'm trying to say is you have the greatest impact on your own destiny, right? I want you to understand that, so you're not moved one way or the other, no matter who is in office in any given year or no matter what's happening. This career path has been golden for me. I've been progressing all the way since 2000, and it has not stopped. It doesn't matter who is in office, and I submit the same to you. The same thing is going to be there for you. If you're in this career path, I can't speak on, I'm not a sanitation engineer. I can't speak on that one. I can't, but I suspect that most other career paths are similar. Whether you go to the healthcare industry and you're working as a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you are working as a secretary or whatever, you know, it's how much impact do they really have on your life, right? You're the master. You have the greatest impact is what I'm trying to tell you. All right. So let me get into this. What I wanted to show you guys, and Larry, how you doing? I've got some people jumping on TikTok. Thank you so much. I want to show you some of the proposed policies that are coming down the pipe and how it might affect this career path. And so let me switch my screen here. So he does have some policies, and the reason why I put this picture up is because these two guys, if you don't know who these guys are, like I'm sure you know who Elon is, but this dude over here is Peter Thiel. So these are the guys who originally made PayPal. They're going to have a lot of influence over what this administration does. They already are having. I don't know that it's all bad. By the way, I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm not saying it's all good. All I'm doing is kind of just looking at what is potentially going to happen. So I have a picture here. If you're listening to me, with President Trump, and behind him is Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. Um, he's this administration is really listening to these guys. So, and like I said, not all good, not all bad. Let me go to the next slide here. Go to the next one. All right. So some of his proposals are going to affect IT. It's going to be domestic manufacturing. That's a big one. One huge push that he has is domestic on domestic manufacturing. Um, Cybersecurity, I would say it's pretty much kind of the same. He's not really proposing a lot just yet. I'm not really seeing a lot in any of the stuff that they're putting out there. And then in AI, now AI, there are some things that they're pushing. All right, so let's start off with IT manufacturing. So what he's been proposing in his spiel going throughout the country has been a 10% tariff or tax increase on imported goods, all goods, not just IT, but all goods, and a 60% increase on tariffs from China. So the idea here, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that businesses will force people to start buying in the US rather than buying other places, right? The pros are it encourages businesses to focus on manufacturing here in the US, and the cons are it's a possible inflation of goods, possibly adding to the inflation that we already are dealing with right now. So both of those things are possible, right? The good and the bad. There are some existing U.S. manufacturers who are going to benefit from this, and one of them is Eaton Corporation, and another one is Rockwell Automation. But there's other U.S. based manufacturers who may benefit from the stuff that they're talking about here. Let's just be real about it. There's some good that can come out of it, right? Hopefully, right? We're here. We're in this country. I hope things, regardless of how I personally feel about this direction, I hope that it goes well. Will it go well? I mean, I don't know. Like, we're about to see. We're about to find out. So let's keep going. And that was the main things that they're doing that's going to affect IT as far as the prices and maybe even some jobs. It might increase the jobs here in the U.S. Possibly. We'll see. I hope it does for the better. Um, Enhancement, another thing that they've talked about that they've written or said in interviews or whatever is enhancing cybersecurity defense capabilities. Pretty much this is the same as what he did before. I'm not seeing any huge changes in one direction or another, but what they've said is that they want to strengthen the nation's cyber defense mechanism for specifically for the Department of Defense and push more towards a offensive and uh, stance on cybersecurity, which would be good if that's what they're going to do. I didn't really see much else except for them saying that we're going to increase the private sector's collaboration. This has all already been in the last few administrations. We've been going in this direction for a long time, so that's good that they're going to continue that direction and that momentum that we had in the previous administrations. So that's not bad. All right, so here comes the probably a little bit more controversial one. That they really are going to make changes, and they're very serious about it. So this one is AI. They're going to remove government oversight. Now, there's already Biden administration put out something called Executive Order 14110, which was the safety, security, and trustworthiness of in the development during the development of AI and the use of AI, right? So this was supposed to add more governance, risk, and compliance for AI. They're going to remove it. So the Trump administration saying, nope, we're going to deregulate AI because we want the U.S. to be first in AI. And there's arguments for and against this, okay? Argument for, I'll start off with our argument for. So argument for deregulation, all right, would be that China's not going to hold back on regulations. Russia's not going to hold back on regulations, right? India's not going to hold back. Why are we going to let them outpace us by putting regulations and being the good guy, right? So you could think of it that's kind of the pros, like on their side, speaking for them, to say, hey, we're going to remove regulations because we want the AI to progress faster. Another positive thing for this argument for their position is that if we were to put in regulations, it really would just benefit the big guys, Alphabet of Google, Meta, Facebook, and Chat GPT, OpenAI, all the big guys who are already in this space. They would be the people who would kind of move the needle with regulations while slowing the progress of the smaller people who are out there developing. There's a ton of other smaller AI developers who would be possibly negatively affected by the regulations because it's going to take them a while to build up to the point where regulations don't have that much of an impact. Because think about it like this: the AI, when you're putting all this stuff in AI, you have to spend more money. You've got to get a GRC person in to help you with those safety features that the government wants, right? So arguing both sides, like arguing on their behalf, saying that how can we keep up with or governments like China, who's not going to give a damn about those regulations. They're going to go way past us if we have these regulations. Another thing is the smaller guys, like the smaller guys are the ones who have the most innovations a lot of times to move these markets, right? And then they just get gobbled up by the bigger guys. So now arguing against them, I would say regulation is very necessary, right? In every industry. If you go back in time to, I don't know, the meat packing industry where they didn't have no regulations at all, and you were getting rotten meat packed in with maggots and all kinds of stuff. People were getting all kinds of diseases because there was no regulation to check the processes, right? The regulation is there to help us to develop safety standards for the people who will be consuming or using this thing that's going to be everywhere. It's going to be ubiquitous. It's going to be like the air we breathe. That's AI. That's what's going to happen with AI. It's already happening. Um, to have no regulation on that is crazy. And even Elon Musk himself said it, right? Who's now on their team. He even said it himself. He says that it's scarier than nuclear weapons because this thing can do some crazy stuff. And how here they are removing the regulation. Now, what I will say, what I think will happen with this, and I'm just speculating, this is just my opinion, but I think that OpenAI, Anthropic, Alphabet, Meta, and all those guys, they know how important it is to have those safety features in place. They know how important it is. So I think that they will create their own commission, kind of like the PCI DSS guys did. They're going to come together in a body and say, look, here's some safety features we're going to implement that all of us should implement. And it'll be kind of like a suggestion rather than a mandate that comes down from the government, which is what the Biden administration was proposing. So I there's a pro and a con on both sides of it. I think that we should lean more towards regulation because this is a potentially a super dangerous technology we're dealing with, hundreds of times more dangerous than social media, and you can see some of the havoc that's wreaked on our kids, on our privacy, on everything. It's not 100% good. That's everything that's happened with. I mean, I think we can all agree that social media hasn't been 100% good. There hasn't been no regulations on it. It just popped up and then now it's off to the races, right? And now it's harder to put the genie back in the box. And now we're about to just let AI. This one I really disagree with what they're trying to do. I really think we should slow walk it, but this is the direction we're going to go. On the positive note, is if there's no regulation and all of these AI companies start cropping up, right? In theory, that because there's no regulations, the business explodes. Maybe that'll bring more jobs for us. That's a maybe, but that's a definite maybe. I don't know. I have no idea, right? So let me keep going here. Show you guys some more stuff here. Just some thoughts that I had and a little bit of research I did looking into possibly what this is the changes that are coming. Another big one is gonna be government restructure. So this is gonna happen for sure. What does this mean? So already what they're proposing is that Elon Musk is gonna head a Department of Government uh, Efficiency, Doge, right? So they're leaning into this cryptocurrency stuff. So the Department of Government Efficiency is going to look at eliminating government waste. So that will have an impact overall on government jobs and stuff because that's going to possibly lower the amount of government jobs that are out there. Another one was potential impacts. Yeah, workforce reduction for sure if they start like cutting down departments. They're talking about eliminating or restructuring the Department of Education and the Food and Drug Administration. They're really harping on getting rid of Department of Education and possibly restructuring or getting rid of the FDA. Another one they're going to restructure, and this directly affects me, the DHS, which I happen to be a part of. And they're very serious about it, either breaking it up or moving parts around or something. We'll see. Another one's the EPA, reducing what they do and their impact and everything like that, which I also, I don't know how that's going to go, but we'll see. Let's see. Okay, so other things. What I want to say here is the cybersecurity and governance risk and compliance is created out of need, not so much out of a administration, right? So the administration, they often get the kudos for signing off on this or that executive order, or starting this or that agency or whatever, and it couldn't be done without the president or whoever, Secretary of Defense or whoever signing off on it. And then as a result, sometimes they get the credit for it. But a lot of times, if you look at the history of all these ideas and stuff that's happened, places like the Department of Defense or the Department of Homeland Security, they were created out of a need, not necessarily out of the brainchild of some genius who happened to be in the government. And I'll give you a few examples here of some of the things that we use today, such as the FISMA Act and, I don't know, Space Force and all the other ones that have come to pass based off of a need. All right, starting with, we'll talk about Department of Homeland Security, we'll talk about FISMA, and then I'll give you some other examples. All right. And okay, I'm trying to go to the next slide here. Come on. The slides are not sliding. Okay, there we go. All right. So Executive Order 13228 started the Department of Homeland Security. But the real reason that George W. Bush signed this and put this in, by the way, they don't write these themselves, right? Like somebody else writes this and proposes it and puts it on their desk and explains why it's necessary, and then they sign it, right? So it's not their idea. So my point is, it's coming out of need, not some genius that's sitting on high to do this stuff. So this came because of 9/11. After 9/11, they realized one of the issues why it even happened was because all of these organizations weren't coordinating with each other. Like one part of the organization knew, had some information, some intel that something's going to happen with Saudi people boarding this plane or whatever. They actually had information on some of these guys. And then another organization had some pieces of information, but they weren't talking to one another. And because of that, they were like, look, we need to do a department that can coordinate all this stuff, so all the information comes through so we can protect the United States of America. And I don't know if you guys remember when the Department of Homeland Security first got made, but people were scared out of their minds that George Bush was doing this. And they were pushing it really hard, and they were like, oh, this is going to be the Department of Homeland Security, and it's going to do this. And people were like, man, it's going to be like the Gestapo. They're going to be knocking on doors, and you're going to have your neighbors telling on each other. And they had all of these conspiracy theories about what the Department of Homeland Security was going to be. But in reality, it was just the umbrella under which 22 different federal organizations got put under. And so, people there's just a lot of like trolls and conspiracy buffs and stuff out there that they get all this misinformation out there and start tricking people. And you got to be really careful with this stuff. Like, just don't overreact, is what I do. Just don't overreact and get the facts, because it's funny because some of the quote unquote conspiracies, have some truth in them. Not all, but when you do your research, but a lot of times people will color code it to make it sound like their side, whatever side they happen to be on, far left or far right or whatever. So looking at the FISMA Act. So this one, the E-Government Act of 2002 actually created FISMA. So FISMA is what NIST 800 risk management framework is based on. Now, NIST 800 already existed like in the 90s, but FISMA, the E-Government Act of 2002, which created FISMA, Federal Information Security Management Act, made it so it mandated us to use the NIST 800. And then the NIST 800 then evolved, and now the entire federal U.S. government uses it. But it was made out of a need, and the need was we needed a federal mandate for us to all adopt one standard, and this was what made us do it. We needed one because I was in before this, doing IT stuff before this got implemented. I'm telling you, it was chaos before there was a mandate for FISMA. And then FISMA 2014, this was just a modernization of what was already passed. And then putting it all under including the Department of Homeland Security. And then another executive order, 13636, which created the NIST CSF. It's basically, they realized, hey, our critical infrastructure is getting pawned. It's getting owned. We need something better for our organizations that are doing our critical infrastructure, and that's where the NIST CSF was supposed to fix a lot of that stuff. And in some ways, I mean, it's a great tool to use. So that's another executive order. This U.S. Space Force, this was actually implemented during the previous Trump administration. I thought it was hilarious when I first heard about it, to be honest with you. But no, it was serious. And turns out they'd been talking about this since the 1980s and 90s about having some organization, a military branch that focuses on just space. And it came out of a need because a lot of governments are already starting to get into space and have their own satellites and spy on each other and stuff like that. So they were like, look, we need to dominate this part. We need to focus on it and master this. So and not all executive orders pass. My point, the point I'm trying to make is that GRC, governance, risk and compliance, information system security, cybersecurity as a whole, it's really evolved. It's evolving based off of the needs of the industry, not off of one president or whatever. A lot of times, what I've noticed is this: good presidents will react. They'll listen to their team and react to what's going on right now. Like if we're getting hammered by another government, if we have all of these different risks and vulnerabilities that are susceptible and exploitable by these threats and stuff, a good leader will listen to his administration, smart people surrounded by smart people, and then they'll respond with an executive order or whatever. A great leader, they'll be proactive and they'll have an awesome team around them, and they'll do things because they know something's coming down the pipe. And you only know who is good and who is great based off of the history, based off you go back and you can see what they did wrong and what they did right. Right. So, how much of this is going to affect us? I think that when I look back on everything, I'm in a career field in my path. I'm just speaking for myself. I know this is not for everyone, but most of the people who I work with are very, very conservative. Very, very conservative, right? I know because I talk to them. They tell me how they feel and stuff, right? And I know that a lot of them are more than 50% are very, very conservative in their views. But what I've noticed is that doesn't matter. I'm not there to be their friend. I'm not there to be their buddy. I don't care how they voted, right? I care about getting the job done and ultimately taking care of my family, right? That's what I care about the most. So that's what I focus on. A lot of times, presidencies and administrations will take ownership or they'll take credit for all the good things, and then they blame all the bad things on another administration. But the reality, speaking for GRC and governance, risk, and compliance, the reality is all of us are trying to get through this. Nobody can predict the future. All of us are trying to make our systems more secure, right? That's the name of the game. As long as nobody's impeding the flow of us trying to have progress to continue to produce and protect what we have, then there's no problem, right? So they're always playing like football, like your team, my team is better than your team and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, all of us are on the same team. All of us want to produce more, that we want more jobs, we want more prosperity, we want to take care of our kids. That is the name of the game. So when I get into a place, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking, oh, who did this guy vote for? Man, I don't give a damn. I'm there to do a job. Period. I'm not there to be your friend. I mean, do I have friends there? Yeah, of course. Like there's people who I've known for many years who are conservative or who are not conservative, right? And have all these different beliefs and stuff, right? I'm not saying I don't like the people I work with. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is my focus is to get the job done. I'm not there to talk about their religion or talk about. So I don't get emotionally involved. I personally don't. I get emotions out of it, right? Because we're there to do a job. So that's it. I'll get off my soapbox. I just wanted to go through some of the things I'm seeing. Who knows what the administration will do? But I could tell you, since I've been doing this since 2000, that I'm the master of my own fate, right? I've been progressing in this field regardless of who's in office. And you can be on the same time, right? I'm on a different time. Larry said, "What's up, Bruce? How you doing, man?" Oh, my man, Professor Black Ops, the PayPal Mafia. Yeah, that's PayPal Mafia is Elon Musk and Palantir guy, um, Peter Thiel. Read his book, by the way, many years ago. He's got a book called Zero to One, where he talks about why a monopoly is good. Crazy, crazy people, man. I tell you what. Let me see here. I'm gonna be taking some questions and stuff. Um, let me see if anybody wants to call in or something. I might have a link I can give you too. Larry said, "I'm interested to hear your take on working for the federal government for the next administration. I started previous in the previous Trump administration through the Biden administration, and how and now back to Trump." Um, I think that same thing. Like I've been doing this through many different administrations. What I noticed is whenever they do make a change, let's say that Trump says that, well, not let's say it. He did. He said we're going to restructure DHS. I work in DHS. So let's say he says we're going to break apart a certain department the of Department of Homeland Security, right? Which is, I think that's kind of what they're wanting to do. Um, it's gonna take upwards of 2 years to make that happen. Like, working in the government, it's like we're on this gigantic tanker, and any kind of turn they take takes 2 to 3 years for it to start. Sometimes for it to even start, it takes 3 years for it to even start, and then by the time they start, then there's a new administration in office, or they change their mind or something. Um, so I'm not worried about it because I've been through. This is not my first rodeo show. You know what I'm saying? It happens, and even if they make a change in Department of Homeland Security, it all it's going to do is shift around the work. It's not necessary, and then it'll take 2 3 years for it to even happen. And by that time, maybe they change their mind or something, right? Not all the executive orders go through. Not all the ideas that they have come to fruition, right? And I actually had another slide. My last slide was all the failed executive orders. Here's one that came from President Trump in 2020, preventing online censorship, because I don't know if you remember that, but there was this huge political, they kept talking about, oh, we're getting censored. We're going to stop this censorship. And so he put this executive order in place, and it got revoked when the next president came in. And then another one was protecting American monuments, memorials, and statues when there were people kept defacing them, and so they made an executive order to do that. It got revoked. Building and rebuild, and I'm not saying all of this is bad or good or whatever. My point is, executive, whenever they make an executive order, not all of them come to fruition. Not everything they say is going to happen. Um, and even if they do happen, like the Department of Homeland Security happened, FISMA happened, NIST CSF happened, it took years every time. It took 2 years for them to do the Department of Homeland Security. And even when they did, it was a skeleton crew. It took 3 or 4 years for them to implement the actual U.S. Space Force and break it away from the Air Force, because in the beginning it was part of the Air Force, and then they broke it off as another branch, and then it was still a skeleton crew. They're only in the last, I think, 3 years they start hiring people like in mass. Only the last 3 years, and it's been out since 2019. So it's going to take years. I don't think it's going to be an immediate impact on mine. I could be wrong, but I just don't think it's going to be a long-term impact will probably be the AI stuff. That'll be a long-term impact. And I don't necessarily think everything that's going to come out of that is going to be good. That's just my personal opinion about it. So, all right, let me take another opinion or comment from TikTok. Let me see here. Going through all my TikTok stuff here. Somebody says, is working for the GCI H. I don't know if I love IR. Incident response. Your thoughts? GCIH is fire, man. Any kind of SAN cert, excuse me. All the SAN certs are fire, right? And I'm speaking on from my own personal experience. All the people that I've worked with who had a SAN cert, when I was working with the Army as a contractor, doing SOC analyst work, and working with the network analyst guys and the incident response guys and the forensics guys, data forensics guys that all had GC certifications, GCIA and GC, a couple of other GCIH as well. I think it's fire. Like, it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do analysts, cybersecurity analysts, or I could tell you those are great certifications, right? We lived and breathed by those certifications when I was doing cybersecurity analyst work for as a contractor for the Army. And those guys, that whole program is awesome, I think. So if that's your route you're trying to do, then I think that's great. And there's definitely a lot of work for that. And you said, I love incident response. Your thoughts? Yeah, I think it's a great career path. And there's so many directions you can go from incident response, right? From incident response, you can go into full blown data forensics. There's a piece there. There's the SOC analyst road you can go. You can go super technical, or you can kind of go in between, like with incident response. You can go into the governance, risk, and compliance piece. Like, there's a lot of different directions you can go with that one. So I think it's awesome. I think that's positive. Keep doing what you're doing. Get experience. That's the biggest thing. Don't just do the certification. Let me see here. Systems need securing forever and ever. Yeah, I agree with that. There's never going to be a time when we don't need a secure system. There's always going to be a need for a secure system. Even if you get some kind of extremely powerful AGI, the AGI itself will have to have security features on it. That was the whole thing behind Skynet in Terminator. Like, it could do whatever it wanted, and it did. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that movie, but go watch it. Larry said, during Trump's last administration, I believe I saw more emphasis on certs and experience and much less given to education and degrees for the job seeker. And the thing is, I don't recall that happening, but I think we're already going in that direction. And actually, that's a great direction. If that's the case, I want to go more in that direction, because a degree takes you, I don't know, 4 years, right? 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, whatever, right? It takes years to get it. Whereas a certification, having on the job training, is more effective, it is faster, and it's cheaper. I don't know why we don't go that direction. I think that we should be better about getting people in, especially younger Generation Z people, Gen Alpha, whatever. Well, not Gen Alpha, they're too young. Gen Z people, whoever, young people, bring them in, train them, and then say, hey, get this certification. Hey, go to school. While you're working here, go to school, get your degree now, like while you're working on the job. Like, that would be a better way to go. And I think that if that's the case, if that's the direction we go, I think that's great. We're already going in that direction. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that that they're saying on that White House, what is it called? Serving America. I keep forgetting the name of this push that they're doing. Service for America. Yeah, that Service for America push here. Let me show you on my screen here. I'm on the whitehouse.gov page right now. This is being pushed by the current administration, the Biden and Kamala Harris administration, to bring more people in, regardless of what your certifications or degree is. Right now, this huge push because we have a gigantic need to get more people in U.S. Government jobs. So yeah, it's already happening. And if they keep that Even if they rename it and say it's the Trump, whatever, like just do it, right? Just you could take credit for it and then just move. As long as it moves forward, that's what matters the most to me personally, you know. Okay, let me see. And that's what a lot of presidents do, by the way. The administration will come in, they'll revoke the current uh, executive order, and then they'll rename it. It'll be the same thing, but they'll rename it and say, "Oh, see what I did? They were going to do this, but I did it," so they can take credit for it. It's crazy. And it's not just Trump that does that. It's all administrations do shit like that. Does every cybersecurity job require a security clearance? No. So this is something that there's big confusion on people who are on the outside looking in. Now, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've held security clearances, and I could tell you not all cybersecurity. I've had jobs that didn't require a clearance. They do background checks. There's a difference between a background check, a security clearance, and a public trust. They're all different. They get lumped together a lot. For example, public trusts are often put together with secret or TSSCI clearances, but they're not the same. Case in point, if you are a U.S. citizen, you can get public trust or a secret or a top secret clearance. But if you are not a U.S. citizen, you can't get a secret or top secret clearance. You can get a public trust. So they are different, even though sometimes they're put in the same basket. Another thing is a background check. All the jobs I've had have some kind of background check, and the reason why is because the type of information I'm dealing with is very, I'm looking at people's. If I work for a bank, I'm seeing where they're hiding the skeletons in the closet. You know what I mean? If I'm doing scans at a healthcare organization, I'm seeing all the weaknesses and vulnerabilities. They got to do a background check on me. I'm seeing sensitive information, right? So I've had jobs where I didn't really need much of a background check. Like I had a couple jobs. I had one where I had a couple jobs where I had no background check. Because it was usually from videos. Like people would see me on video and they'd be like, and they'll call me directly and then I'll do work for them, like very small companies. But background checks. So a background check does not always lead or it doesn't always necessitate it doesn't always need a secret clearance. You know what I mean? So secret clearance is mostly for intel and military position jobs. If you're dealing with that kind of information, then you need a secret and above type clearance. Sometimes it depends, because you could work for the Department of Defense and then work on their NIPRNet. It's a network, an internal network that has no secret information on it. It has sensitive information like might have passwords or something like that on it, but it doesn't have secret information, right? There's a difference. So to answer your question, not all cybersecurity jobs require a secret clearance. I've had not all cybersecurity jobs require a security clearance. So I had a job where I was writing for a company. I was doing their policies, procedures, and it didn't require a clearance. I did a couple of those, right? I did one where I was teaching. I was just teaching cybersecurity stuff. I had to be a little bit technical because sometimes I had to set up like networks and stuff, but I did not need any kind of security background. So those are two jobs where I didn't need a security clearance. And then I've had jobs where I didn't need a secret clearance. I didn't need a secret. I just needed a public trust. And that was when I worked with Verizon, when I worked with NASA, and then my current job, which is with the Department of Homeland Security. All right. So next question here. Hope that answers your question. Let me see. Larry says also, thought the lowly people like myself were relatively unaffected as for the losing jobs, etc. But competition for jobs changed. Less programs for minorities and women to go into tech. I would say one of the things that changed from one administration to another for sure is the upper leadership changes. They usually switch out the upper leadership, and that's like a chain reaction. So they'll start off when we moved from. I'll give you a very specific example. Going from what was it, Bush to Obama, Clinton to Bush to Obama. Okay, so from Bush to Obama, what they did was starting from the top. So it's the president who has to pick the top executives, right? That's part of their cabinet. So the president appoints the Department of Energy's secretary. They appoint the Department of State. The Department of State is appointed by the president. Their whole cabinet has to be chosen by the president. And then what happens is that person at the top, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, and all the other secretaries, high level execs, very powerful positions, they begin to appoint people underneath them, a deputy, a staff around them, to help them out, secretaries and all that kind of stuff. They appoint or hire people under them. So their upper level staff does change from one organization to the next. But to do stuff like I'm doing, like information system security officer work, doing the system security plan, I'm in the weeds, right? That's different. Like they're not going to go that deep to switch out everybody. Now, what might happen, what I do notice now, here's a big change, is that some companies win big because you know what kind of situation we live in here, and that's under any administration, is that it's run by companies. It's influenced heavily, I should say. It influenced heavily by companies, special interest groups. I give you if you don't believe me, specific example would be when Bush was in office and we had all these wars, and you had KBR, Halliburton, and a whole bunch of other global security companies get all of the no contest contracts and stuff. And then under Clinton and under Obama, Google did really well. They start getting contracts with the government and stuff. I'm just giving examples, painting a picture that this country is very much influenced by companies. And so when there's a shift in administration, they very much favor certain companies because those companies have been putting in all kinds of money into and that's one of the things, like they really need to get the money out of politics here in the US. I think that's a real flaw with us. It doesn't matter what administration you might lean heavily left or right or whatever, and you're okay with your team being in, but you have to admit, for a company to have that much influence is kind of a conflict of interest, and it takes away from the power of the people. We the people is kind of getting replaced by we the corporations, and that's all I'll say about politics. So let me see here. Tariffs. Hansel says tariffs are causing layoffs. So many are being laid off in New York City and South Carolina. Um, yeah, I cannot speak on that. I don't have direct experience with that, so I really can't speak on whether or not. I don't know that tariffs will be very good or very bad. I cannot speak on it, but that's unfortunate if that's happening. Facebook user says, "What's going to be at stake? What's going to be a stake of cyber job market coming when Trump comes?" Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying what's going to be at stake what's going to happen with this cybersecurity job market when Trump comes to power. I mean, I think first of all, the economy is going to take a while from the industry I'm in, right? So the stock market's different. So I think this is just from what I've seen. So Trump in the last administration, right? If that's any indication of what's about to happen, the last time he was in office, he heavily deregulates and helps big business. Like he lowers their taxes and then gets stuff out of their way so that they can do whatever the hell they need to do. And that does a couple things. It helps the company make more money, which the company normally you would think that they would like spread the wealth, but normally what happens is the people at the top, the executives, they end up getting these gigantic raises. So any kind of C level execs are going to get a gigantic raise. Mark my words. Keep watching. So if you are in a C-level exec role or a director level, something like that, you're going to get a gigantic raise if the company does better. I notice another thing is that the NASDAQ does really well. Like right now, it's blowing up because the people's confidence in the companies goes crazy for a while when Trump's in office. Now it's going to go up and down like crazy, right? So I think that the FANG corporations will do well for a while and they'll start hiring more and people will be all happy and stuff. And then something will happen to where it dips, right? There'll be what do they call it? Irrational exuberance. And then it'll blow up the stock market. And then all these jobs from FANG are going to come in. FANG stands for Facebook, Apple, Alphabet, Netflix, and Google. I think I already said Alphabet twice. Apple. I think I'm forgetting one. Amazon. So all of those gigantic blue chips, trillion-dollar companies are going to blow up because they're stock markets. They're based off stocks. The other jobs, like I've been working in GovTech, so I'm not really affected by them unless I have 401k. Like you might want to get into the 401k. You might want to get in the stock market, by the way, because it's about to go crazy up and crazy down. So what I think is going to happen with the cybersecurity job market is on the FANG side, it's going to get a little bit bigger for a while, for a minute, for a couple years, maybe right after he gets elected for like maybe another year or two, whatever. And then I think that there'll be a restructuring of the government sector because that's what they said they're going to do. But I don't think that restructuring is going to happen till the end of his term. I think he comes in, he immediately starts saying, we're going to do this with the DHS. We're going to do that with FDA. We're going to do this, that. And then it's going to take like 2 years for that to even happen because government is super slow. It's going to take like 2 years. So that's 2025, 2026, and then it'll start in 2027. And by that time, they're going to be talking about a new election. And so that's what I think will happen. I don't think it's going to go down. I don't think the job market's going to go down. I think it'll shift around and if hopefully get better, but we'll see. Let me see here. Let me answer some questions on TikTok. Somebody said, did you see the Comptia that Comptia got bought out? Your thoughts? What are you talking about? What are you kidding me? Comptia was bought? What? By who? Wait, hold on, guys. I got to see this. Under the agreement, Thomas Bravo and HIG will take over Comptia's core business, including its well-known IT certification and training. Who the hell is Thomas Bravo? What? This is the first time I'm hearing about this. Wait, hold on a second. Let me show you guys what I'm seeing here. I didn't know this. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Who is this? Temporaries. Thanks. Okay, hold on. I'm looking at it now. Channel Insider. Comptia's certification arm acquired by Thoma Bravo, and HIG. Okay. Comptia, a well-known nonprofit IT. Okay. 2 major investors. Under the agreement, Thoma Bravo and HIG will take over Comptia's core business, including its well-known IT certification training program and IT brand and Comptia brand itself. This part of Comptia will shift from nonprofit to for-profit status. Oh shit! Under its new owners. The familiar. Okay, this is definitely about to be a change. The familiar membership side of Comptia won't go away. It will split off into its own separate nonprofit organization and keep working to support IT professionals. The deal structure timeline. Okay. The transaction is expected to be complete by early 2025, pending standard regulatory reviews. The acquiring firms did not reveal the financial terms of the agreement. They didn't say how much they spent. Oh, they did. Okay. Thoma Bravo is already a heavy hitter in the tech world with investments in companies that you might recognize, like ConnectWise, Darktrace, and Sophos. Okay, that's pretty big. I thought Sophos was owned by another country. Just to name a few, HIG is no small player either, managing a whopping $65 billion in capital. Okay. So Comptia's market position is okay. Appeal to investors. Okay, I'm trying to see how they're going to change it. So far they said they're going to split it into two parts. So the nonprofit part of it is going to still be there, but it looks like what they'll probably do, they're going to want to make some money off of this. So what they might do is make another arm of this. What sounds like they're about to do is make a whole nother arm of it, and then split that arm off so they can actually make either training, like on site or on demand training, on either online or on in person, so they can milk that, make some money. I mean, that's what I would do. And then under the name Comptia, and make a shitload of money there. Probably release a couple more certifications. Hopefully they don't screw it up, right? Hopefully they don't mess it up. I hope that they keep it separate enough so that it can continue to be what it is, rock solid, keep its reputation. And if they have this other thing, they split that part off and then they do whatever the hell they want with that other part. So we'll see. We'll see. My thoughts is that it could go. It's going to take a lot for them to screw it up, right? They're going to have to really do something stupid to screw it up because it's a pretty good brand. I don't think it changes anything unless they really do something dumb. You know what I mean? Like get rid of Security Plus or something like that. And that would be extremely stupid. Which isn't past companies. They do dumb stuff. So let me see. Got another question. Larry says, you've worked in tech and GRC overseas, correct? Yes. Yep, sure have. Few times. I know that a lot are considering looking overseas. I've heard some good things. I've heard some good things and some horror stories, as well as far as Americans working overseas is concerned. Well, I could tell you my own personal experience. So when I worked overseas, the longest time I worked over, aside from like just going to fix things, like I worked with Northrop Grumman, and we had without saying too much, we had a contract where we worked with the government where we would fly out and fix one of the sites, and we would go there for like a few weeks or whatever. But I had a job where I actually worked in Kuwait as a contractor for the government, and I was there for like a year and a half and lived there. Pros and cons. So it's going to depend on the country. And I could tell you that pros, I'll start with that. So the pros is that you get tax-free status up to, when I was in, it was like 98,000. So if you're getting paid 120,000 a year or 150 or whatever they're going to pay you, right? It's usually a higher amount. than what you would make here. The first 98,000, and they've been changing the tax code, so it might be different, higher or lower by now, but when I was in, it was like 98. So the first $98,000 is tax-free, which is huge, by the way. And then they tax you on the remaining whatever else you make over that. So that was one of the real big pros on it. Another thing was that in the environment I was in, I was able to learn so many different things because there's not a lot of Americans who want to do it. So you get over there and you're exposed. You have to put your hands on a lot of different things because it's just you and this small crew of people. So you have to do multiple things. So I got so much exposure to so many different technologies there. It really expanded my career in that 1.5 years, my skill set. Cons, you're away from your family. I mean, that sucks. Some people brought their families over, so I guess that wouldn't be a con for them. Another thing is you're dealing with the culture of that place. Really depends on where you go. Middle East is a bit difficult, for me personally. I'm not a religious person, so some of the custom, and I'm very respectful of whatever customs and courtesies that I need to abide by in whatever country I go to, right? So I stuck, I wasn't drinking alcohol, I wasn't partying, I wasn't eating bacon, I was abiding by their laws, you know what I mean? Like whatever the law was, I abide by it. I respect that the sovereignty of whatever, they believe. So for me personally, it was difficult. That part of it. Another pro was the people there was some real cool stuff there. There was some real awesome things that I got this experience there. The culture, talking to learning a little bit of Arabic and learning their eating their food and interacting with some of the people. People are beautiful, right? They're just extremely physically beautiful people. Um, not all, but there's good and bad with every culture you go to. Like it's very good and very bad. Very, very bad. I could tell you some crazy stories that I don't even want to talk about here. I don't even want to talk about it here. I don't want to get banned. So there's some really good, really bad, really ugly stuff that goes on. Overall, I would say it's a great way to start your career. If you were trying to get very technical, go over there for like a year or something. And some places you can take your family, and it's not just Middle East. Like there's places in Southeast Asia, there's places in South America, there's places in all over that have these contracts that you can go over there and do this work, and it's really worth it if you're really trying to go hardcore. And sometimes you can even take your family and stuff, and it might be like a paid vacation for you because they'll give you a place there. They give you a place there, like they say, okay, here's your compound, here's your a stipend for you to live over here off base or whatever. So it's not 100%. There's good and bad with everything. The best thing was the pay. The worst thing for me was being away from my kids. Um, some of the some of the perks for me was that from Middle East, I was able to travel all over the place in that area. Like I would go to Southeast Asia a lot. You could go to Europe. It's closer than from here. You could go, like people would just go and travel and have these awesome vacations around that area. Or you could go to like Bahrain, or you could go to like um what's the UAE or um you know all those little places around there that are really nice. So it's not all bad. Tariq, my man Tariq, he says, so do you feel that most contract jobs will be cut or federal? No, I don't think that most contract jobs. I think that they'll propose. This is just my take on it, having done this for a while. I think that they will propose a gigantic, crazy cuts. Like I think that they're gonna get Elon Musk in there, and he's gonna be like, "I'm gonna cut." he's gonna It's gonna be very entertaining. He's gonna be like, "I'm gonna cut this and that," and by the time they're done, they have to do it right. It's not. This is not Tesla. This is not X. This is not. This is the government, right? It works totally different. So and a lot of like business guys don't realize that, right? And there's a reason why. It's huge. It's $1 trillion enterprise. It's not a billions. It's trillions of dollars dealing with infrastructure that is people's livelihoods and life is literally dependent on the water that we're drinking, right? The EPA is measuring the contents of our water in all 50 states across hundreds of different counties, right? It's a huge it's not Tesla, right? As big and awesome as Tesla and SpaceX is, this is the US government. This is the one of the most powerful industries that has ever lived on planet Earth. This is not a small company that's going to be gone in 30, 40, 50 years. It's been around for hundreds of years. It's probably going to be around for hundreds more years. So this is not right. So I think that they're going to make some proposals to cut a whole bunch of jobs, um, government jobs, actual government jobs, GS positions. That's what I think. They're going to try to restructure it, and I think it's going to take years to do that. And then contracts will be affected because they'll be like, we're going to cut this. And then they're going to be like, oh, okay, it's going to take us 2 years to cut all these things because you can't just immediately cut it. There's some story I heard about how Elon came into X, right? And actually, you know what? Right before you think I'm some kind of Elon hater or something, I love SpaceX. I love Tesla. I love some of the other awesome stuff he's doing. Some of the other shit's crazy, like Neuralink's pretty crazy. Like I don't know where that's gonna go. That's some sci-fi shit that I'm very intrigued, but it sounds like it's gonna be some horror movie stuff. So I have a mixed feeling about Elon, but I heard this story about him where he said he comes into Twitter and it's about to turn to X, and he says on a meeting, says, I cut everything, this whole server room from California, right? And they say, well, sir, it's going to take, 3 weeks to do it. It's going to take this and that because we don't have the manpower. We got to fly over there. We need this and that, right? Like real logistics, they're telling him. And he's like, bullshit. I want it done now overnight. And they're like, no. And then as soon as they said no, he fired him. And then this is the story. I don't know how much of this is true. He flew there overnight and did it himself. He cut the wires. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure like what really happened. All I know is can confirm that he made a lot of quick changes at Twitter. I don't know that all of them were great. But I'm not a Twitter user. You'd have to ask somebody who's on Twitter all the time. I never did like Twitter, even when Jack Dorsey was in there. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I'm on there and there's just a bunch of trolls and porn, and I'm just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? So, my point is the government's a lot different. And as soon as they try to make these changes, to be honest with you, it's going to take months or no, not months, years to make these changes. By the time they can actually make the changes, there'll be another election. And then if he wins the next term, they'll be able to implement all the stuff. The first term will be them actually coming up with the plan and then saying we're going to do it, doing the executive order, getting that passed through the all conservative legislation, right? Because they can do that. That'll be fast. But the hard part will be actual implementation because they'll have to terminate all those jobs and figure out what it's going to affect. Now, if they're extremely reckless, they do it within the first term. And I don't think it won't go well. I just don't think it'll go well. There's too many things that are dependent on the Department of Education, the EPA. There's just too many things wrapped into it to where you could just cut it in 4 years. It's going to take 2 terms at least to cut all this stuff. Can they do it? Yes, they can. But will they do it? If they're extremely irresponsible, then yes, they will. Larry says, my retort to the diminishing of the educational requirements is that there is more learned in education than just book knowledge. Yeah, that's true. I work a lot with a lot of people who have no soft skills and poor writing skills. Yeah, there's some good and bad to getting rid of the educational requirement. And for me, I'm not saying get rid of it. And you're right. Like, just to kind of boost up what you're saying here, is that when you go into college, it's not just book knowledge. It's you're learning how to coordinate with other people. You're learning how to work in groups. You're learning soft skills like public speaking. You're learning how to be patient with others, and you're learning slowly how to interact with people with completely different personalities than you, that have completely different beliefs than you. And that learning right there, if you pick up on it, is very valuable. And so that's what Larry is saying, and I agree. But what I'm saying is that bring people in and give them the actual on the job training, and then allow them to help them go to school. Hell, you could just help them, give them the time to go to school, give them the resources and money to go to school, and then let them get that degree while they're on the job training. And then you boosting them up and having good quality benefits and stuff will help. They might even say, look, I want to stay here. If they leave, they come back, they will consider it. So that's what I'm saying. Let me see here. I got some more people from TikTok. Let me see here. TikTok. I'm just going through you guys' comments here. Alex says, hey, I want to break into IT in the help desk role, but the only experience I have is IT foundational skills and customer service. What would you recommend? Whatever industry you happen to be in, there's a couple. I'd have to see where you're at. So I always tell people, start where you're at. And what I mean when I say that is that start where you're at is, if you happen to be in the healthcare industry, there's probably an IT job for you there. I would say, if you happen to be there, look for IT jobs in that industry you're in. Whatever job you happen to be, look for IT jobs where you are, because it's going to be possibly the easiest transition you can make. They already know you're an employee. You already got most of the paperwork with HR straightened out. If they happen to have go to their career page and see if they have an IT department. Now, if you don't have a job, that's much more difficult. If you have no job, you have no IT experience at all, that is really hard. But what you can do is look for cable jobs are really a really good entry into IT, because you're learning basic networking skills. Another one would be technical customer support, over the phone or in person. Sometimes you have a local field tech positions that don't require a high school diploma, or that's all they require. They require you to speak English. They require, and that's pretty much it. And then you come in, and then they'll teach you the skills. And those are not going to pay well, but it's a good way to at least get your foot in the door and start. Thank you, Live and Learn. I appreciate that. Let me see here. Looking for more comments. More comments on. Okay, so Vincent Fury says, I'm finishing my cybersecurity degree. I have 7 classes left. After 2, I'm in. I'm told that I should have just that I have just done certifications. Thoughts? I'm told that I should have done just certifications. No, I don't agree with that, Vincent. I still believe in the value of a degree in our field, because you're a technician and you're an engineer. So it's gonna, at the very least, it'll help you to be very competitive in this market. And a lot of jobs, to be honest with you, the higher paying jobs, they require a certification or a degree. A degree usually. You know what I mean? So, and another thing is, if you have 7 classes left, I'll tell you, just like I tell all students, don't wait until you finish your degree. Start right now. Go. One of the great advantages that a lot of people don't take advantage of is to become a working student. It's a huge advantage that a lot of people don't have. So right now, what you can do, Vincent, is apply for a working student program at your school. See if they have one. if they have internships, if they have apprenticeships, if they have projects you can do, all those things will help you on your resume. These are things that the employers, once you get your degree, are going to be looking for. They want you to have experience over experience is over a degree. A degree is over a certification. So all of these things have advantages, but the best one by far is experience. Get the experience while you're still in college, while you're still working on it. So you're actually in a position where you can make moves that a lot of people who are watching me right now cannot make. They don't have the resources, they don't have the time or whatever. That degree it's worth something, right? It's competitive. Do I think that this field should always require a degree? I do not. I think that they should lean more heavy into the experience part and bringing people in and then giving them the experience and then get a degree or whatever. That's what I think they should do. But that's not how it's working right now. Right now, they're looking at experience, a degree, and certifications in that order. Experience, a degree, and then a certification. Now, a lot of people they skip the degree, and you don't have to have a degree in this field. You don't have to have one. I want to reiterate that. But a lot of times, at least the knowledge is what they want you to have. Nobody's going to get in this field without any knowledge at all. So, hope that helps. Let me take some more. Speak to more. Okay, Larry says, I just think that I just I just think they're equally important, and emphasis should be put on making education more affordable versus deeming it unimportant. Yeah, I have to agree. Like, I think that it is important to get a good solid. It is very very helpful to have that degree under your belt, to have that years of experience learning under your belt. It's really, really a good, solid thing. Just like I was telling Vincent over here, I think it's at the very least, it's extremely competitive. Even if you don't believe in having that piece of paper, once you get it under your name, like it's very competitive in that market. So, do you have to have it? You don't have to have a degree. I've been met plenty of people who didn't have one. My first two mentors had no degree, had no certifications. They were actually brilliant, right? So they were brilliant people with a lot of experience coming from the military, but they didn't have a degree, no certification, and they were teaching me who had a degree and certifications. So do you need it? No. Most people, I think it's probably best that they do get a certification or degree, but not absolutely necessary. If you can get one, spend the time to go ahead and get one. I'd say if you have the time, the energy, the money, resources to do it, I would say do it. Um. So what's the future of cyber jobs when Trump gets in office? I think I already covered this one, but yeah, I can touch on it again. I think that the future remains the same. I think that there'll be some market shifts, right, in the direction of certain companies and organizations who have aligned themselves with this administration. Just like always, this is what happens every time. So when it was Bush, it was Halliburton, global security companies, Halliburton, KBR, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, those guys made out like bandits when he was in office. They were very much aligned with him. There was a gigantic wars going on all the time. Any kind of organization who was aligned with war, global security type stuff, they were they made so many billions of dollars. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying that, I'm not listen, I'm a capitalist. I do not agree with everything we do. I do not agree with everything. I was in the military, a service country. I love America. I do not agree with everything we do. Okay, so this is not me advocating any administration or the things that they've done. I'm an American who can clearly see that we are not perfect. This country is not perfect whatsoever. But I'm saying the jobs will shift. So when Bush was in office and there was three wars going on at once or whatever it was, and we were spending $1 trillion on this dumbass war, these wars, I should say. um, the companies who were funding it, like the ones who were sending the Humvees or the guns or the services or the contractors for it, they made billions of dollars in contracts. So all the money was with them. There was like a chart that I would read to say, okay, who got the biggest contracts? Now here we are in the Trump administration. So I can, off the top of my head, I think that police departments, any organization aligned with police departments, are going to make crazy amounts of, get contracts, all kinds of stuff, right? Um, I think that if past is any indication of what will happen, um, certain media organizations will do really well. You know, Fox will do really well. Any organizations that align themselves with him will do well. Probably AI. No, not probably. Definitely AI, because he's getting, turning off the restrictions on that. So that's gonna go crazy. Um, what else? Cloud, because AI is based on cloud. So any kind of chip manufacturers in the US are going to do well, because he's putting a 60% tariff on imports from China and a 10% over all imports of taxes. He's going to tax any kind of imports on any imports coming in. So that means that if your company A is buying these parts from China, pieces from China, you are spending, $2, $1 on this chip, and now it's going to be $1.60 on you. It's going to cost you. You're going to get the tariff. You're going to be taxed. You are, not China. And so you're going to be like, oh, okay, maybe I can save by buying it from Vietnam, or maybe I can save from getting it from Philippines or something like that. Maybe I can buy it from somewhere else. You're going to have to make a decision. And so I think that it will shift. I don't think it'll die down. I think that FANG companies will do really well. As I said before, FANG is Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. All the NASDAQ companies are gonna do well for a couple years. Those jobs will start paying people a crap ton of money. So those cyber jobs will do well, I think. That's just my guess. Yeah, so I don't think it'll necessarily be bad. Let me see here. What about you, CMMC? There might be some changes to CMMC. I remember reading something about this, but it started in the Biden administration. I don't know that they're changing the actual CMMC and NIST 800-171, but it has something to do with improving the coordination between the private industry and the public industry. And I have to find that article that I read about that to give you some indication on what. uh I don't believe it'll directly change it. It was more like an enhancement uh to increase the communication between the Department of Defense and commercial entities, but I just don't remember off the top of my head. Apologize for that. All right, let me see here. Somebody said, Will said, if I have a CASP plus but not a security plus, would that be problematic when I find a job? Oh, no. CASP is, there's a hierarchy. So CASP is a really, really good certification. Like CASP is intermediate to, it's an intermediate to expert level certification. At the very least, intermediate. Security plus is kind of like an entry level security certification, to be honest with you. So CASP is actually way better to have. And the best illustration I can give of this is the thing I always show here, called if you go to Google, Captain, you following along with me on listening to this podcast. If you go to Google or any search or AI or whatever, and look for security certification progression. if I could spell, progression chart. All right. You're going to see something called pauljeremy.com. He's got this really good site. I mean, it's been up. I've been talking about this for like probably 4 years straight. But here's the chart right here. I'm showing it on the screen. And it's like a matrix that has it's a security certification roadmap. And it's a matrix that has the vertical up and down has beginner, intermediate to expert, right? With certifications kind of going from beginner all the way up to expert. And then he has categories of different types of security certifications. He's got on the green side over here on the far left, you've got communication and networks security all the way over to security operations. But in the middle, he's got IAM, he's got security architecture and engineering, he's got assessment, asset security, security and risk management. So there's these different types. So up and down, he's got beginner, intermediate, and expert, and then all certifications going up. And I'll give you a specific example of what I'm talking about. At the bottom floor, he's got Project Plus, which is in the security and risk management, right? But if you go all the way to the top to expert, you see a PMP. So a PMP is a project management certification. So Project Plus all the way up to the top of this food chain, which is a PMP. And above that, there's an ITIL master. So in this whole thing, what I'm trying to get at here is that Security Plus is kind of at the bottom. Security Plus is a beginner level certification, right? It's right at the top of the beginner Security Plus. And then if you go about to the beginning of expert level to the top of intermediate, you've got a CASP Plus. So I'm trying to show you the hierarchy of security certifications. And this is a really good site. So if you want to look at this, just go to Google or whatever and type in security certification progression and you'll find it. And the name of the site's called pauljeremy.com. All right, let me see here. Got some more questions. Wow, this is surprising. I was expecting to get a lot of crazy trolls on here because of the name of this video, but man, I'm pleasantly surprised. All right, so F Money says, I've been having a hard time finding a cybersecurity job for years now. I work at a help desk for 2 years, and I have a Comptia Network Plus, a Linux Plus, a Pen Plus, and a Security Plus, a Google cybersecurity certification. So normally, whenever I get this a lot, F Money, that this same exact wording, and I laugh because it's the same. It's usually the same problem. It's usually two things. It's that they don't have an ATS style resume. They have a poor resume. The resume is not good. Usually, that's what it is. It's not emphasizing what they do in the resume, and you have years of experience. So you should have you should have some really, really good stuff. In 2 years, you could amass a whole bunch of stuff on your resume. So it's usually their resume, and they're not putting their resume everywhere. It's those two things. Once you solve those two things, you for sure will get opportunities coming to you. You might not like all of the opportunities, but you definitely will. So I could show you a place where you could give you an idea of what things you should put on your resume if you're trying to do cybersecurity. You probably want to specialize. It looks like you could easily specialize in security because you have a Security Plus, a Pen Plus, Pen Test Plus, and another security certificate from Google. So let's start there. So let me show you my screen here. I'm going to type. Want to follow along? CIS V8. And CIS V8 is a standard that a lot of organizations use. And all it does is break down the best security practices. Now, my guess is that you're not putting the best security practices on your resume. And if I'm right, this will fix a lot of problems for you. So these are security best practices. These are things that need to be put on your resume. If you're trying to specialize in security, you should know that these are some of the things that organizations are looking for. And I'll show you another one too. So here's the categories. And so if you happen to be listening to me, or you're on Facebook, you're on TikTok, or you can't see my screen, I'll read a few of them. There's 18. There's 18 different security controls that the CIS V8 has. And I'll read a few of them. It's things that you wouldn't think that are security related, but they are. Inventory and control of enterprise assets. Inventory and control of software assets. So hardware inventory, software inventory, data protection, that's like encryption. Secure configuration of the enterprise assets. This is like configuration if you've ever done an image where that image is going to be across your entire organization. That's what that means, like securing the actual security features and then putting that same security features image everywhere. Account management, access control management, audit log management, email and web browser protection, network infrastructure management, data recovery, continuous vulnerability management. That's a big one. Network monitoring, continuous monitoring is a big one. Security awareness and skills training, like you doing the actual training, or you implementing, you putting the training forward, training others, or you getting the training. Being a part of the training, like actually putting the module together for the training. Another one is pen testing, incident response management, application software security, service provider management. So these are some of the main best security practices that you could put on your resume. But let me take it a step further. What I want to do is I want to show you what I would do if I were you to improve my stance on this. So what I'm going to do is go to LinkedIn, and we're going to specialize in security. So if I were you, this is what I'd do. If I could, man, what's going on with this thing? There we go. All right. So here I am on LinkedIn, and you don't have to use LinkedIn. You can use any other job site. Well, no, actually, for this one I'm about to show you is especially for LinkedIn. So I'm going to type in cyber security specialist. Right? So this is what you should focus on. Now, you can go to jobs, and this is going to help you. And you can do this on any job aggregator, but there's something on here that you can only do that I have only been able to reproduce on LinkedIn, and that's go to people. So I typed in what job I want, cybersecurity specialist, but you can put analyst or whatever you want. And then I look at these people's resume. You notice how it comes up with these top people? The reason why is because these people have the best resume in this category. And so you want to take a look at theirs. So I'm going to take a look at this guy's right here. And it's going to show me some of what I'm looking for is keywords and key phrases. Things like in this particular field that's popping up is that he is a project delivery senior consultant, a program manager, a defense cyber operations superintendent. Now this guy's he's like a manager, so it's probably not what I want. So let me skip this guy. Go on to another guy. I want like an engineer. I want like a person in the weeds, because coming off help desk, more than likely, unless you have a lot of background in management, that guy's not going to help us out. Okay, so now we're looking at his resume. This guy doesn't really have okay, here we go. Here's a little something from his resume. I'm looking for keywords. This guy's a cloud specialist. And before that, he was a cybersecurity specialist in the Army. And I'm still looking for keywords here. Okay, here's one. MITRE ATT&CK. So if you're familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework, you want to put that on your resume. Here's another one. SIEM, NIST. That's another one. He doesn't have a lot of keywords in here. And that's good news, because that means this is not very marketable we could dominate this market because these guys, their resumes aren't that great. Let me see. So this guy has some okay. Now this is not a great one. Let me see. We'll find one. Let's keep going down the list. Cybersecurity specialist. Here we go. Another cybersecurity specialist jobs. So SAIC, pretty good company, by the way. Cybersecurity specialist, cybersecurity analyst, virtualization engineer, storage virtualization engineer. What I'm doing is looking for keywords. Like, what are keywords that I can put on my resume that will help me out, that will be marketable once I post my stuff on LinkedIn? That's what I'm looking for. Another thing you can do is look at the jobs. Again, we're looking for keywords. We just typed in cybersecurity specialist, and this is a principal cybersecurity specialist. We're going to stay away from that one. Principal meaning it's like a manager or something like that. It's a high level position. We want, okay, a senior, same thing. We want somebody who's on our level. And I don't know where you are. I'm assuming that you're going to be not necessarily entry level, but not necessarily a manager. So I'm looking for those kinds of jobs. And I think what's happened is it's keying in towards me because I'm not seeing entry level jobs here. This is crazy. Okay, I'm gonna type in cybersecurity entry level. So my rationale behind this search is I'm looking for jobs that will fit into where you're at currently. Security advisor, PCI practice. All right, let's see what this one is looking like. Is this senior level position, mid-senior level? Okay, we don't want that one. Cyber operations specialist. Oh, look at this one. This is nice. Yeah, look at this. So this is some keywords right here. Look at this. Standard operating procedures, develop review. It wouldn't be things that you would think. You would think it'd be like, oh, this guy knows Tenable. This guy knows, and that might be. But I'm saying you got to broaden your horizon, and you'll broaden it by looking at the keywords that are in the job descriptions that you're trying to get, and then you want to take those and put them in your resume. If you've ever done a standard operating procedure, you guys probably call it something different. You might call it a work instruction or something. You might call basically it's a document that walks people through how to do your job. And I'm sure you've either seen one or written one or has some kind of interaction with one, because as a help desk person, you often have some document that tells you, okay, if this happens, do X, Y, and Z. That's a standard operating procedure. You want to put those words in because they're looking for that to be in your resume. Does that make sense? You're looking for keywords from actual resumes or from jobs to put into your resume. That's what you're trying to do. And if you do that, there's a good chance you'll have people beating down your door. Whoa, now the first 120K is tax-free. Damn, I didn't know that. That's nice. Okay. Larry says, interesting that Comptia is making this move recently. The relatively popular training platform IT Pro TV announced a bunch of layoffs and the changing of its direction as well. Strange coincidence. It's a big competitive market, but I think Comptia, if they do it right, Comptia can really make a lot of money, because there's some really good. They could go after some of the larger certifications out there, because the Comptia is already has something competitive against the CISSP, which is the CASP. They could go after a whole bunch of other stuff. They could go after incident response. They could have something as robust as the SANS organization if they had money behind them to do that. If I was them, they had nothing to lose. I mean, I would go after if they made their training robust and had like a whole bunch of badasses that are working for them, they could compete with SANS. They could annihilate the EC Council. They could annihilate them. They could get right up there with ISC2 Square or ISACA. They could have something like that if they do it right. So it's not a bad move, in my opinion. Of course, there is risk involved, and if they screw it up, it could be like what's happening with Star Wars right now. Disney bought Star Wars, and it's doing all right. So it's just not doing as all right as it could be doing. Vincent Fury says, I already had 2 years completed from another school from years ago. Okay. Can I get a job if I have a record? Yes. Yeah. Definitely possible. Let me see. I got another question or comment here saying, I'm currently doing a bachelor's of science in cybersecurity and digital forensics. Is that a good path? Yes. Yes, it is. Cybersecurity is an awesome path. Um, Digital forensics and cybersecurity is an awesome path. Case in point, I've been doing this since the year 2000, and right now, we have a new president, and I'm not afraid at all. I'm not afraid at all. My job has not been shook by COVID-19. It hasn't been shook by any of the wars that have happened, 9/11. No presidential administration has shook what I have. As long as I'm the master of my own fate because this career path. Um, and that's why I do this. That's why I'm here, because I want to see more people win, right? Regardless of whatever your choices in life, like whatever road you have chosen to walk, or whatever beliefs you have, or whoever you voted for, I want you to win. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to be those people who are walking through your shoes, right? Like this is a difficult path, being here in this body, in this physical earth. It's difficult, right? And some of us have it really hard. And I just want people to know that there's other opportunities out there. I'm not a rich man. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not, I can't afford to go to Bali and live on a beach. Um, if I abandoned everything here and lived on a smaller budget, yeah, I could. I got kids, right? I got kids who need me. I got people here who need me. So, um, my point is, this career path has allowed me to come from very humble beginnings. I've come a long way. I'm not super wealthy. But I do own 2 homes. And I know how blessed I am, because I came from a place where I have nothing. Um, I want that for you guys. And that's why I'm telling you, you can do it, right? If I can do it, somebody who came from nothing, who is a high school dropout, can do it. You can do it too. Am I saying it's easy? No, it's not easy. This shit wasn't easy. I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I wasn't out partying all the time. I had to read some boring ass books and manuals. I have to deal with shitty customers and shittier clients. Like, it's not easy. This is not for everybody. But if you really want something better for your family, you can do it. Because if I can do it, you can do it. It's a great path. I'm finally cybersecurity, but the job market, it's hard, and I'm moving to Azure Cloud DevOps engineer. Yeah, cloud is definitely a great one to have. It's what I've noticed is that it's just like when I first got into this field in IT. this contractor pulled me aside. I was asking him questions, right? Because I just cross-trained into from physical security to IT, and this dude was a contractor working for General Dynamics. He was making really good money, and I was in the military at the time. And I was asking him all these questions, and I said, "Hey, I've been thinking about getting out of the military. Like, what should I do when I get out?" And he said, "Well, in this field, you can make as much as you want, or you can move wherever you want, but you can't have both." And at the time, I didn't fully understand what he was saying. What he meant was, now I understand. Now I get what he's saying. So a lot of times, this to answer your question, by the way, what I've noticed with cybersecurity is that I'll get these job offers, but I'll have to move to Virginia, right? And I have to go and I have to, it's on site. So I got to go to an office and I have to have a security clearance and it's in a skiff. And from the house that I'm going to have there, I'm going to have to drive an hour and a half every day there and back. Or it's local. It's about an hour away commute, but it's on an Air Force base and I'm in a skiff. You see what I'm saying? For the amount of years and time and skill set that I have, I should be making way more than what I make. But I've decided that I need to be here at home with my family. And I've had to take a pay cut for that. You can't, the point is, you're gonna get job if you do your resume right. The people who tell me, "Oh man, I have this certification, I have 3 years of experience, I have this and that," I'm telling you, their resume sucks. I'm telling you. If your resume is good and you post it everywhere, you will get offers, but they will not be where you want, or they won't pay you great, or they'll pay great, but you got to move here, or it's tax free, but it's in Kuwait, or it's always some kind of catch. If your resume is good, like the first step is to get your resume tight and post it everywhere. You should be, at the very least, if you've been in this field for 2 years, if you've been in this year for 1 year and you have a degree, you should be getting offers like crazy because they really have a need for people, regardless of what the freaking media is telling you. I'm telling you, there's jobs here. I've worked, the last few jobs I worked at always needs people, but we can't find people to come in, or sometimes it's our fault because it takes too long to get people in. That definitely is a problem. There's this long process to get people background check, and then by the time they get the background check, they moved on to another job. But there's jobs. I'm telling you, there's jobs for this. There have been jobs. It's not because whoever's in office or whoever is now elected. Like, no, there's been jobs. It hasn't stopped. It has not stopped. But you got to have your resume tight. You know, another thing that he told me was the best thing you can do is specialize. Of course, you got to know all the basics, right? Which is well-rounded cybersecurity generalist, where you know all these things. But once you specialize on something, whether it be cloud or security or some combination of those, that's when you start getting the higher pay. And he was right about that. What does it what does it to get what does it take? Maybe you mean? What does it take to get a job in the USA when I have done cybersecurity degree in Africa? Well, first of all, I would say whatever country you happen to be in, try to get a job in that country, because your best bet is going to be to get a job in that country. To get your resume tight and go to the top 10 job aggregators in whatever country you happen to be in, and surrounding countries, right? Because Africa is a big continent. There's all kinds of countries around there. Try to focus on first your own, region, whatever country you're in, and then the countries around it. Or even if you can, commute, or you can go to a country that's in the same continent, something like that. Try there first. It's going to be easier for you to do than to do here. That said, to answer your question, you said, what does it take to get a job in the USA? Okay. There's a bunch of gigantic corporations here. I'll give you a very specific example. When I was working at Verizon, which is a multi-billion-dollar company here that does telecommunication, if you never heard of it, um, we had foreign nationals in a bunch of countries that worked with us, and this is a high-paying job. This is not just selling mobile phones. This is they have another branch of their business where they do cybersecurity analyst work. Um, so we would do cybersecurity consulting for other companies, and we had a person in Argentina, and that person was doing the actual consulting, but also getting us more business in that whatever country it was. We had somebody in Japan, we had somebody in Germany, we had somebody in Australia, and a couple other countries, because I think Canada. They had business in all these different countries, and sometimes we have to have a person there on site, and so we would have to hire a person in that country to do the work, and they were getting paid. So um, that's how you can. That's one of the ways you can do it, is look for those big companies, not just in the U.S., because Germany has those kinds of companies. Australia, Canada has a bunch of those kinds of companies, not just the US, and they will pay you well. Um, where can you find it? One trick you can do is this. Every country has a top 10 list of job sites. And I'm going to show you. If you happen to be watching me, I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to go to Google. Or Bing or whatever, and I'm going to type in top. You can follow along with me. Top search top job search or sites. Let's just type top job sites in Kenya. So every country has their own top 10 job sites. So Kenya's job top 10 is not going to look like the USA. This is how you will find the jobs. For Kenya, the top jobs, it names Brighter Monday, which I've never even heard of, New Kenyan Jobs, Snap Hunt, Indeed, which I've heard of, Google Jobs, and LinkedIn. Now let's go to another one. Let's look at Ireland. Top job site in Ireland is irishjobs.ie, jobs.ie, indeed.ie, and monster.ie. Now let's look for top jobs. You get the idea though, right? I'm going to do one more. Top jobs in Canada. Now what you want to do is put your resume in whatever country you're trying to do, put it in all the top 10. If you're serious, you'll put in all the top 10. So in Canada, it's just like here. Well, similar, because there's some different ones that I've never heard of. Top 10, Indeed, Monster. I use those. Job Boom, I've never even heard of that. Handshake, never heard of it. Learn for Good, never heard. So there's a bunch of on here that are top 10 in Canada I've never even heard of. So you want to go whatever country, top 10. Put your resume, your CV in every one of those. Fill it 100% out, the whole profile in the top 10 of that country, and you will get people responded to you. You're not going to want everything that's there. They're not going to pay enough. They're going to say, oh, can you move to Arkansas, or are you in the U.S. or whatever? So it's going to be a job for you just to try to find a job in that country. That said, I'm telling you, when I was working at Verizon, we had people all over the world working with us, and we'd be in telecom meetings with them and everything. So there's companies, giant global companies, that are not bound to the U.S. or Canada or whatever. All right, let me see. Answer some more questions. It's almost 2 hours, guys. So I'm gonna finish this out. Maybe I'll do like a speed round. I'm gonna go through this. Wow, this is crazy. I'm getting so many people contacting me. That's wild. Larry, thank you for that $20, man. I really appreciate you. He says, appreciate the candid conversation. I know this isn't a political show, and I certainly and certainly not my aim with my question, but I believe that having a space like this and having an open conversation and knowledge sharing is critical. Yeah, I agree, and I really didn't. I really did not want to talk about politics at all. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want, because there's people's are in their feelings about it, and I understand, right? There's a lot riding on it. It does affect people's livelihoods. It does affect people's life. But what my main thing is what I want to say is that whether you're so happy that this person won or so sad that your person lost, your focus should be on the main thing that you impact, which is your own life. You are the master of your own fate. It's not based off of the administration who's in office. That's the whole point of this. It's not based off of the administration. It's based off of your actions, your skills. So keep going. It's not the end of the world. And I wanted to demonstrate that by telling you I have been doing this 20 years, and it's across 6 administrations now, across COVID-19, 9/11, divorces, wars, and all this stuff. This career has continued to deliver for me. I'm not saying that I don't have problems, right? I'm not saying that my life is perfect. I'm not a millionaire, but I could tell you this, I have stability. And regardless of who's in office, regardless of it's winter, if it's summer, if it's fall, this career path has allowed me to have stability that I can pass on to my family, that I can pass on to other people. And I'm telling you that this is not the end of the world, right? An administration is like dust in the wind. It's gonna be gone. It comes and it goes. Sometimes your team wins and you're happy, and then sometimes your team loses. So our team lost. I'm messing around. All right. But anyway, I think I'm gonna go, guys. Thank you so much. There's so many great questions here. And I'm still working towards doing a community so we can continue to talk, because I can see, oh my Lord, there's so many people. Man, thank you guys so much for all of your comments and stuff. I was really expecting to get on here and get bombarded by a bunch of trolls, and I'm so happy that there's so many positive minded people about their money and their business that are on here chatting and talking and stuff. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. This is definitely an awesome community. I want to expand it. This is really cool. I got some stuff coming really soon that I'm gonna be. Please stay tuned. I'm gonna be announcing like a community. I'm building it right now, so we can just talk and talk and talk, and then have those things come on the show. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Stay positive, stay up. And okay, I got one more. Thank you for the $10. Appreciate your videos. You helped me to land a knock job. Oh man, position as a defense contractor. I've been working 3 months so far. Looking forward to the next step after a year. Man, that's great. Great to hear. So many stories like that that I'm hearing. Like I said, sometimes people follow my advice and end up making more money than me. I'm serious. I'm serious. So thank you guys for watching. I'm out for real this time.